This conference will now be recorded.
This is Appian, where Appian community, wherein we can log in using this business email and all that. So wherein we have different consoles here, like one is admin console, second is for the designing part. Even we could see Appian RPI as well, all that, right? So different things are there. So as we are into development, Appian development, we want to develop an application. So in this we have to choose Appian Designer, where we get this application. Here we can here you can see this Appian Designer. It will take time due to server and as well as net issue. It may be taken few minutes time for you to open, few seconds. Please bear for that. So this is an Appian console where we can see this designing part of it. So whatever the applications were interconnected. So these were interconnected websites. Now these are all. Let me explain you about the Appian part. As I mentioned you, Appian is a low coding platform based website where with limited resources and all, whatever the applications or whatever the business process management do we require to do, everything can be happen using this Appian website. We can create new applications by clicking on new application because we have existing applications wherein you could see. Means these are all predefined ones, order fulfillment, right? Human resources, all that. So predefined what we call predefined websites and all, everything will be there. So wherein we have to create new application for the existing ones, because these are all the existing ones where if you want to create any kind of objects, right? So all these things and all, everything can be done using this. Means we have to create, before you're going to create an application or at the time of creating an application, there are different options wherein you could see. There are different objects, something like objects, right? Objects and all, everything has to be created here because I'm going to explain you about the overall options which is available in Appian so that we can create an application and I'll show you that. So this is objects. These are the objects where we can connect. For example, these objects. For example, if you want to connect with different systems, right? So integration, connecting system, all these were used for the same reason. This Appian BPM application need to connect with other systems, ERP systems or with the SAP systems or something of that sort. So we have to choose these options like connect system integration and all, everything is being used for that. Next, if you want to store the data, right, whatever the data amount of data we are writing. So if you want to store the data and all that, so this store data store and all, everything is being used. So make sure whenever you are writing these object types, whenever you are creating these object types, make sure we have to enable these. Without enabling these, developing this and all, everything doesn't have any value at all. Next, whatever the documents, for example, there was a document written for a project called X. So wherein document sharings and updating of documents and all, everything can be done on this. Next, if you want to write down the expression rules, right? So whatever the different expression rules do we have in all, everything, those expression rules can also be written on this. Next, for example, you want to create something like process model, something like flowcharts. Do you remember? If you remember that we normally prepare flowcharts, all that, right? In earlier days, if you see, we can connect the flowcharts, all that, right? So we can prepare flowcharts, all this. The flowcharts and all, everything creation can be done using this process model. So so that we can create different process models using these objects and all. Last but not least, if you could see an option called Web API, right? Web Services API, where If we want to connect with other applications, the best example I could say, if you take LinkedIn or Facebook nowadays, you don't require to sign in. What you want, if you have an existing Gmail account, which is the validated one, by using that existing Gmail account, we can log into the website. Am I right or not? Right. So because there is a web services which will be written in back of it, which is comes under API, right? They'll write APIs, where API stands for Application Programming Interfaces. By writing Application Programming Interface, where these applications, whatever the Gmail account or whatever the account are we using these accounts, we can connect to the websites. Means either it may be Facebook or it may be what we called maybe Facebook, or it may be um, LinkedIn or something like that. So we can connect with other applications. So to write these other applications, to connect with other applications, there are some web APIs to be created. Means web services, application programming interfaces, something like SOAP, all that. Means simple object access protocols. There are different protocols will be there. So these protocols and all everything is being used to do it. So these are the different objective types which are available here. Right. Point number one to be noted with. Right. So if you want to identify the objects, or if you want to connect these objects, make sure you have to connect all these, right? So for example, if you are connecting this connecting system, wherein what are the different systems you to be connected with, right? If you want to connect with RPA, or else if you want to connect with something like connecting system which is something relating to Salesforce. Salesforce is a CRM application. Novel, right? So Salesforce CRM application we can connect with, or else if you want to connect with something relating to Google applications, right? So if you want to connect in with any kind of Google applications, all these things connecting with using this connected system. Next, here you have an option called as constant, where in this constant, these are the predefined ones which I could show you, because we have not created any application as of now. Right. So these are the constants which we have, which was already defined. Right? Because as I mentioned you, there were a few things which was already mentioned and prepared by the community admin, wherein those requests and all everything can be seen here. Next, if you want to create a data store, right? So if you want to mention the data, because for example, let us take loan application. When you are mentioning the loan application, you have to update the records of the loan, whoever wants to apply for loan and all. So you have to mention their data details and all everything into this. This is what generally this data storage and all that. So data storage where you can store the data, whatever the data and all that. Next, followed by data type. There are different data types are available to you, right? So those data types and all everything can be incorporated in this object. So the final means, of course, there are many things in this. The final point what I would like to tell you is, if you want to enable anything, make sure you need to have a proper application. So without having an application and all, creating some process model, something like this sort and all everything will not be having any use, because whatever the object types are you choosing, these object types must be in connection to the application what we are creating so far. Understood, Raja, Sai Krishna, right? At the same time, you might have know about a concept called SQL. Do you know that? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. So structured query language is a query language normally written in Oracle and all. So wherein using SQL, we can extract the information from the database. Means, for example, you have stored some information in the database, wherein you want to extract information from that. How do you extract the information? We are extracting information using writing some SQL queries and all that, right? So because database team people and all everybody, we'll write SQL queries, SQL queries we call it as. SQL queries will be written by the database people. So whatever the queries we have written and all that, so using those queries and all, we can extract the information from the database. That is what we can do. That is what we can do here. This is what we call we see in SQL, Oracle and all that. The same way we have an option where we can write down the some queries and all, some query rules and all if we can write. So whatever the information to be extracted relate in order to maintain some reports, because we have to create some reports and all. You could see here, right? Different reports and all, everything can be incorporated. So if you want to create any kind of reports and all this query rules and all, everything should be written in back of it. Next, followed by this, the next you could say web APIs, as I mentioned you all about. So these are all comes under the objects. These we call it as objects. So when you are creating an application, if you can click here, there were predefined wherein you can create new application on our own, or else we can create, because in Appian the advantage is we'll have three different options when you are creating an application. For example, one application is right from the scratch, means we can create application right from the beginning, because because this is something useful for the people who are new to Appian, right? Because if someone who are new to Appian and all that, so we can create application right from the scratch. That is what the advantage you could see here. Next, there is an application builder. The other advantage for a new entrants or for the new people here is we can create application builder something on our own. Means on our own we can prepare, or else the basic template of application builder which is available, or else basic or a full version of application builder which is predefined, pre-enabled will be there in Appian. So any new person who is new to this Appian BPM and all, because we may come across some people who are coming from non-IT as well, right? Because non-IT people will also come for jobs, right? So they can career transformation for indifferent reasons. People do career transformation. When someone is applying, when someone is approaching for a career transformation, whenever they wants to develop the application, we are not sure that they may be knowing about objects or users or something of that sort, right? Which is not assured. Maybe people come from technical side may have an idea, but other persons may not. So in view of it, we have an option where Appian will provide you. One is basic and second is full application builder. Because these two application builders will have an option for you, right? For example, if you are creating using the application builder basic, I'm not creating. We have to create a data source from there where we have to take, because there are application builders which is available wherein we have to choose because Tomcat and all everything were web servers, because usually there are two kind of servers are available. One is web server, second is application server, right? So web servers and all everything, something like Apache and all that, Tomcat and all everything comes under web servers, wherein WebLogic, WebSphere, JBoss, all these will be considered as application servers, right? There are two different servers are available. One is web server, second is application server. Means web server where we need to have a web connectivity, this web servers and all everything is being used. If you want to connect to the applications and all, make sure you need to use application server as separate. So web servers, application servers and all everything we have to connect with. Means if you are using a basic builder app using this basic part and all that. Next, full version of application builder you could see here, wherein we can connect with the same thing, right? So for the same JDBCs and all that, right? So using JDBCs and all, right? JDBC stands for Java Development Java Database Connectivity. This is what JDBC stands for, Java Database Connectivity, where if you want to connect with the different applications and all, these JDBCs and all everything used, like JDBC, servlets, JSPs, all this, because most of these Appian applications will be developed something relating to Java kind of applications, right? So Java code and all everything will be on back of it. So usually those people who use Appian and all something, because of course most of the applications will be built on Java. So you need to connect with different drivers, because why database connectivity we need to use is we have to connect with different drivers like thin driver, type 1 driver, type 2 driver. There are different drivers will be there. So we have to connect with those drivers in order to make use of this applications and all. So that we have to make sure. Means these are all the add-ons, these are all the advantages wherein you could see using Appian. Because make sure you need to connect with drivers for sure. Earlier, the versions were different. In the beginning days of our career, if I see, we used to connect all these. Sai Krishna, you might have been knowing about this, because earlier we used to connect with JDBC connectivity. We have to connect with type 1 driver or type 2 drivers or thin drivers. We have to connect. So whenever we connect, then only application we can run. But nowadays we have an option where in cloud, whenever cloud it came into picture, whatever the connectivities and all, everything were pre-enabled. Pre-enabled connectivities you can see. Using either it's a basic application builder or a full version, we have to connect with the data source, because data source was already available online, means in cloud. So what we have to do is we have to connect it as it is, so that whatever the structure of application do we require to develop and all, everything can be seen here. You're clear, Raja, Sai Krishna? Are you clear or not?
Yes, Rajesh. Yep.
Raja, you are following. I think you are from non-IT, right? So the reason I'm made it more specified to you, because
No problem. I can understand. Yeah.
right, okay, you can understand, right? Because Sai Krishna is from front-end development, so that nothing more spoon feed is required. The reason I'm asking you. Okay, so this is what generally, so JDBC, Appian and all everything is being used for that. Means let's start from the scratch, because whenever we are creating an application, we do from the scratch itself, so that you'll be knowing about each and everything. Because without having any kind of support and all, if you are building it right from the scratch, you'll be knowing about the difficulties, the kind of challenges what we face while we are developing application. Everything we come to know right from the scratch. If you're developing, it will be more advantageous. So because if it is pre-enabled, so there is no point in doing all that, right? So this is all about. So when we are creating application, make sure whatever the objects I have mentioned so far, right? What are the objects I have shown you? All these objects and all everything can be connected with, right? So these objects and all everything we have to enable first. What are the objects we have shown and all that? Next will be users. Right. So here we need to connect users here, because there are two kind of activities. One is about status and second is type. Status nothing but to whom are we providing user options, because there will be admin people will be there, at the same time people who are working on the project. So both will be there. So whenever we are creating application in Appian, to whom we need to provide permissions is what the important element and point we need to see with. Because admin will have, obviously admin will have rights, right? Because admin will have rights to edit or to modify something. Whereas whoever the users we see, users have an option to use the application, not to the extent of modifications and all that, right? So that you don't see here. So this is possible using is active, right? So active users we have to identify. When we are creating an application, we have to connect with the active users and all that. Next, what kind of users are these? Is this a system administrator? Because in the beginning when I explained you about the roles of Appian, right? So one is analyst, developer, administrator, followed by architect. 4 different roles. So because the back-end application development or application maintenance, sorry, it's not development, application maintenance will be looking after by the system administrator and all that, wherein development will be taken care of by the developer. So we have to enable these options when we are creating applications directly when we are doing it. At the same time, we have an option for monitoring. Monitoring, where we can see and we can monitor the process of the applications what we have prepared. So wherein we can see here, we can monitor the application process, application progress and all, everything can be seen in this monitor progress and all, right? So because there are different processes, because make sure you must be connecting with process models, whatever the process activities do we require to create for the project and all that we have to create with. Then only this process activities and all, everything we can see. This is only for a health of a dashboard you could see this, but there are options wherein you could see process activities, where whatever the process models we have created, means in back of it we have to create some process models, right? So whatever the process models we have created, that activities and all, everything can be seen on here. At the same time, if you want to see the project process model metrics, right, whatever the metrics do we need to follow in order to maintain application sustainability, because sustainability of application is something important here. So to maintain the sustainability of the application and all that, this process model metrics and all, everything is being used. So this is all about monitoring part and all. Next, this is relating to the deployment part, because whenever you are deploying application, whenever you want to deliver application to the client, make sure you need to deploy the application for sure. So there are some deployment procedures and standards to be required to follow, right? Yeah. So there are different deployment procedures and all, everything to be followed here. Deployment standards and all, everything will also be written, because there are some deployment procedure standards which we have to write one by one, 1 2 3 4 5, right? Deployment steps have to write, because without knowing about the deployment steps, executing application would be difficult, because application may be developed in our website or in our servers and all, but we are not sure that uh, whether is this application will be deployed at the client location or not. We have to see, because there must be a proper software and hardware configuration must be enabled here. So for that, there are deployment procedures and steps which we have to write. These deployments may be manual deployment we can do, because we can do a manual deployment by the people who do this deployment, all that. That's the reason why you could see this, all these Jenkins and all, everything, all these integrations will be taken place. This will be seen there. At the same time, is it completed or failed or in progress? All these things can be seen in these deployments and all that. So these are the major options you can see in Appian. One is application can be created, objects can also be created, users can be created, monitoring can be done. At the same time, deployment can also be done here. Is this clear, Raja, Sai Krishna?
Yes, Rajesh.
How about you, Raja? Is it clear or not?
Yes, Rajesh, it is clear. Yep.
Right. Now, here I'm going for an application here. I'm going an application. Now we are creating a new application. We are not here, we are not importing anything. We are creating a new application now, right from the scratch. Okay, new application being created. Now, now I'm taking a sample application called loan management system. Loan processing or management system is what I'm taking. Okay, this is what it is. So we have to write on the description here. Here, this application will explain us about how the loan process initiation will be taken place in the view of loan applicant, right? So we can see the status and all, right? So this is what generally the description is. So here we need to click on create, right? Create, right? So we are going to create a loan application. Now, if you remember, when I explained you about users and all that, admin users, all that I have to show, right? I have shown this here. Now, here it is asking you about to whom we require to provide permission and all, right? So to whom we need to provide permission for this application and all. Is it for editor? Is it for viewers or no access? We are giving permission only for administrator to manage this loan application. Okay. So application security updated successfully. So why are we doing this? Because make sure whenever you are creating application in this Appian, right? In Appian, this BPM and all that. Not only Appian, you can see anywhere, because developing application will be a responsibility of some people, wherein if you want to manage that application, responsibility will be laid on others, because other people will also be there, like some administrator or management people and all that. So those people support is also something required here, right? So that is also needed. For that reason, normally this will be done. Now in this loan management, there are two different things you can see. So one is, again, as I mentioned you, we need to create different process models. At the same time, there is an option where I told you, right? Appian, RPA, robotic process. Because RPA has been enabled in Appian recently. Earlier, we don't see that, but RPA has been enabled in Appian nowadays, where this robotic process automation can be incorporated. So in this robotic process automation, you can create and you can record the processes and all. Whenever and wherever it is needed, we can operate, we can log in and we can operate it. That possibilities and all, everything can be seen in this robotic process automation and all that. So at the same time, we can connect with systems integrations and all. Of course, systems integrations and all will be used for the same purpose. Because as I mentioned, if you want to connect with SAP systems or something of that sort, we can do this, right? So this is what generally the new option is. Add existing, right? If you have any folder contents which are available at this point in time, right? So how whatever the folders we have, existing folders or existing objects, because for example, we have an existing objects which was created where we want to incorporate it in this loan management system, right? So all these objects or folders and all, everything can be used here, right? Means if you want to existing objects, for example, if there are any existing objects which are available already, so those existing objects we have to select here. Means if you have any existing objects which was pre-defined or pre-prepared earlier, if we have anything of that sort, that can be incorporated and that can be added to the application. Because as it is a new application, we don't have any objects here. Because if you remember, whenever we have developed the application, we have used an option called scratch. Right from the scratch we are developing. That is what we mentioned in that. So right from the scratch we are application, hence we are developing an application, hence you don't see any option for what we call that. You don't see any option or you don't see any data relating to objects and all, something of that sort. Because we are doing it everything from the beginning itself. Hence, so there is no option for adding existing websites and all that. So whatever the creation we want to do, we want to create new, right? So new data type we have to create, new data store, new data record type has to be created. Process models have to be created on our own, right? Expression rules have to be developed by us. We have to create our own expression rules, because these expression rules are something connecting to the business rules what organization has. For example, if you take this loan management system, what are the conditions to be applied? Who will provide this information to you? What conditions to be applied? Who will provide us the information? Who will provide us the information?
Analyst.
Stakeholder will provide.
Client, yeah.
Are you clear or not? Right? Stakeholder will provide us the information, right or not? Right? Stakeholder will give us the information that what rules to be managed with, means what are the conditions to be applied when someone is applying for a loan. For example, in X is a person who wants to apply for a loan. So the basic structure of loan remains the same for everyone, but the type of application based on the type of loan is he applying. For example, a person is applying loan for a home personal loan. If he is applying for a personal loan, it purely depends on the financials. What is he having? Right? There is nothing for mortgage of that sort. Right? Any personal guarantees will be taken. But if you are applying for a home loan, there will be a mortgage option is available. Right? Against to the financials what submitted by that respective individual, based on the capacity and capability, what normally banks do, bank will mortgage the property as well, right? Based on the mortgage property mortgage, based on that loan will be provided, right? So this is another option. So varying at the same time percentage. For example, if you take government banks, they'll be providing 90%, 80% loan. Whereas if you go for NBFCs, like non-banking financial corporations and all that, they'll be providing 90-95% loan also. So these are the rules. These are the rules. These rules we call it as business rules. Okay, means if any business wants to maintain activity, or if any business wants to maintain any kind of activity in their lines of their business, right? For each and every business activity, there are some business rules. Means, for example, if they wants to apply, if they wants to provide loan, right? If they wants to provide loan and all, the kind of activity what they perform, the kind of steps to be taken and all, everything will be different from one another. Understood? The structure of the loan processing or the loan management system remains the same, but depends on the business rules what that existing bank or the organization have. So depends on that, whatever the structure or whatever the approach to be required to follow will be varying. So this information normally will be given by the customers to us, right? We are not creating business rules. We are following the business rules. There is a difference between following and creation, because creation will be done by the stakeholders, and whatever the business rules they have given, abiding to that business rules, we have to develop application followed by the expression rules and all, everything have to be framed in connection to the business rules what customer has given to us. Are you clear, Raja? Sai Krishna, are you clear or not?
Yes.
Right. So this is what generally the rules are, right? Rules defines these. Again, these rules will change sometimes, right? This business, because these are the business rules end of the day, right? These business rules can be changed at any point in time, depends on the business decision and as well as the strategies what customer is taking. So these expression rules, right? So if you want to write down the expression rules here, for example, right? So if you are if you want to create expression rules and all that, do we have any existing application rules? We have to take it from that source, right? Because we have to take it from their source. And if you want to create new folder for that and all that, we can create and we can write down the expression rules, duplication one. Or else right from the scratch, if you want to develop, we have to write down the description. And at the same time, we need to select from which folder this rule has to be updated in, because we have to create multiple folders for each and every expression what we have created, right? Whatever the objects are we are creating, whatever the folders, whatever the expression rules we are writing and all, everything has to be stored in a data. So for that, make sure we have to create a new folder for that specific rule, and whatever the information or the expression we are going to write, everything has to be stored on that specific folder, so that it will be easy for us to extract the information from the folder whenever and wherever it is required for us. So this is what generally the expression rules and all, everything is being used. Clear, Raja? Sai Krishna, right? So this is what the basic outlay of it. So what I did so far about loan management system application we have created. From today you're going to start how you're going to create the objects and all that, followed by this adding data types and all, everything for the project, and how these expression rules have to be created. At the same time, how to create these process models and how these process models must be connecting with the data what we have created. So all these one by one, because I'm opening an application, I'm whatever the training I'm going to impart you is purely on the application. It's not something like explaining about the options, because there will be of no value. If I can create an application right from the scratch and if I can show you in this training, that is more than sufficient for you, if I'm not wrong, right? So that you will get a clarity, because whichever the application you are developing, structure remains the same. You don't see any difference in that. Is it clear for you?
Yes, yes, Raj.
Yes,
Right?
Rajesh.
The reason why I am creating an application, so that on this application directly, whatever the options to be used in this application will be done directly on this itself, so that some sort of live exposure I can see, right? If you can say that, yes, I have live experience in Appian. Yes, this is what the application I did so far, right? So that you can means you can express whenever it is required in whichever the platform. You can proudly you can say, yes, we did some application on Appian kind of stuff. So that gives us some moral strength, right? So this is what it is. And tomorrow onwards, we'll start with object types, all that, right? So expression rules and all everything will be discussed in tomorrow's session. Means creation, I mean to say. Explanation means explanation was done. Creation and all everything will be done from tomorrow onwards. Clear, Sai Krishna, Raja?
Yes, Raj.
Yes.
Okay. Shared only 2 recordings. The remaining recordings will be shared today. Right? Whatever I download everything and I'll share those recordings. Thank you. Have
So
a,
today's class also you will share, right?
yes, yes. Along with today's, I'll be sharing.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Raj.
Thank you then. Bye. Have a